I've just finished making a small steel model of my robot 09 and he's come out really well, so now I'm going to try and cast him in resin. I've never made a silicone mould before and I've found the easiest and cheapest moulds to make is from silicone and cornstarch. I've got everything here to make a resin robot 09. To make the moulds, silicone and corn flour, I picked up silicone for £2 a tube and the corn flour is only 75p a box. Vaseline for mould release, a silicone gun and car filler. If you've got an old transit van like mine, you've always got a tub of that about. I've seen it for as little as £20 for a 3 litre tin. This is a 2 litre tin. I'm going to start by filling the holes with some filler. The hardener comes with a filler. The more hardener you put in, the faster it sets. The filler and the hardener are just like a paste. I'm going to mix them together on card. The red paste is the hardener and you only use a small amount compared to the cream coloured filler. This is the first mould I made. It's for one of the arms. First I covered the arm in Vaseline, put it on a plastic sheet and taking a ball of mixed silicone and corn flour, moulded it around the arm. This works fine if it's flat and you don't have any detail on that side. Next I made a 2-part mould for the leg. This time I put a ball of silicone on the plastic and pushed the leg halfway into the silicone. I made locating holes with a pencil so that the mould 2 halves will fit together without moving and left to cure. Next I covered the whole thing in Vaseline, mixed a new ball of silicone and pushed it down on the top. Let it cure before pulling apart and you can see the locating lugs. The robot's body is the biggest mould and for all of this it only costs about £4. I used some leftover silicone from the leg to fill the holes in the body. I found it better than filler and easier to remove. Today we're going to be making a new mould so the arm can be cast with a fixing peg. This will enable me to have interchangeable arms. First we need to cut off the shoulder from an arm I cast in resin earlier. I'm using a piece of pencil for the pin. Okay, we're ready to make the mould. I've sped this clip up or we'll be here for hours. The first time I tried this, I got into a right mess. The trick is to gently push the silicone down into the starch and keep covering the silicone. This exposes all the silicone to the air and the smell of vinegar can be overwhelming. It should be done outside or wearing a filter mask. Just keep kneading it like bread dough until it becomes like putty. It must then be used quite quickly. I'm using a clear silicone, but I would imagine white would be okay. I found these in the cheap shop for £2 a tube. I've also seen them on the internet for that price. To make the complete robot moulds, I've used 6 tubes of silicone and 4 boxes of cornstarch. £12 for the silicone, £3 for the starch. For the robot I'm using U-Pol polyester filler paste. There's dozens of makes out there. It's because I've already got a tin. If you only want to make 2 or 3 robots you could get a small tin for £5 or £6. The whole project cost about £20. We now got it like dough or putty. You need to remember to put Vaseline on the arm and also around the silicone mould because we're going to cover the whole thing. I've mixed up far too much silicone. I'm just showing off in front of the camera. Now gently push over the arm and the silicone mould. It needs to be left for a couple of hours before pulling apart. The moulds come out brilliantly. It's a bit heavy, but then I did use too much silicone. I'm not going to grease the mould as there's still enough in there. Too much Vaseline in the mould can make it difficult to push the filler into the edges. It's now ready to use. I'm doing this outside. First, take the filler out of the tin, then add a small amount of red hardener and mix thoroughly. The more hardener, the faster it will go off. You don't want it to set too quickly. Give yourself plenty of curing time. Push the filler into all the edges. This is one reason to give yourself plenty of curing time. If you haven't mixed up enough filler, you can always mix more, but don't put your mixing stick in the paste. Use a clean stick. I've used the other end. Then simply push the moulds together. You can use elastic bands to hold them tight. Use your mixing board as a guide for the setting time. If you open the mould up before it's fully hardened, you can easily clean the edges off with a knife. I've left this a bit too long because I didn't want to risk breaking off the pin. Gently tease the arm out of the mould. That came out really well. Now I just need to break off the overcasting off the edges and trim up with a knife. It's a bit harder than normal because I left it longer. This is the first robot blank body I cast, and you can see it's full of holes, and the head has poor detail. These holes are caused by having too much Vaseline in the mould, so you're unable to get the filler to sit into the mould when you're trying to push it into the edges. The idea of casting rough blanks is you can assemble them as the original figure or reshape the parts for different poses. On this torso blank, I'm going to cut it across the waist, drill 2 holes for a small wooden dowel so the torso can twist. Next, drill out the arm sockets. Use a smaller drill to start before using the bigger right size drill bit. After both arms are fitted, drill the holes for the legs. This is the original, and this is another one I've modified. Straighten the arm, reshape both the legs by just cutting the blanks and sticking them in the new position with filler. You could even cut holes for battle damage. If you like the finished figure, you can make the new moulds for the legs and arms. I'm now ready to build my robot army, but that will be another video.